Yeah, I started watching Black Mirror this week. I'm already on season 3. Really good season. I know you said you watched it, so I was
What do you think of it?
It's like every episode's like a short movie. It's like so.
Yeah.
And it's all different. Like none of them are associated really.
That's what's cool, and they're all like so intelligent the way they're written. Like, they're quite creepy as well. Like,
yeah, like they always make you think. Like especially like some of the episodes, you're thinking, "What the hell has just happened?" You know what I mean?
It makes you worry a little bit about what
technology and
we've
stuff.
got coming in the future.
Yeah, it is.
Especially with that video that came out this week about that robot like dog thing opening a door. Did you see that?
No, I missed that.
It was some Swedish video or whatever where there was a dog made like a robotic dog or whatever. It looked like a dog, and it was able to walk into a room, open a door, pull it open, let its mate go through, and then close the door as it went back out. And it's really creepy. You're like,
yeah. If it's anything like Black Mirror is going to be in future, then I don't really know what to expect.
Yeah. Anyway,
should we crack on?
We don't have to worry about it for now. What we do have to worry about is the sport news. So let's crack on.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Under The Floodlights Podcast. This is the 5th episode, number 5, going strong.
I know. We're still here.
Got a couple of things to talk about today: the rugby, the boxing, a bit of football news, the Winter Olympics. As usual, we want to just say a quick word before. Thanks for all the support so far. You know, the amount of views and subscribers and stuff and nice comments we get, we're really, overwhelmed with what we get. We're really proud of it. And,
really appreciative, really.
It's great. And thanks again to Marcus behind the scenes. Hopefully you enjoyed him last week. Give him some love. He does a great job as always. But yeah, other than that,
get into it then.
Let's crack on, yeah. So, obviously starting with the rugby. Rugby's the biggest story. You had a good week, didn't you? England against Wales.
No comment, really.
Didn't think you'd show up today, to be honest. I thought you'd bow out.
To be fair, it was a decent game. It was really competitive. I thought overall England did deserve to win, but on another note, we were robbed.
Well, so let's launch straight into that then.
Yeah.
So, describe for anyone who didn't see, describe what actually happened.
Well, if anyone didn't see it, you're probably living under a rock. But
Wales, or they don't like rugby.
Wales obviously were going for a try. Cross kick, Steph Evans kicked it on, and there's a race between Gareth Anscombe and Anthony Watson, obviously of England, who gets there first. And obviously the Welsh guy got there first. Everyone knew the Welsh guy got there first. Everyone in the stadium, everyone watching on TV, except the one person whose opinion mattered, the TMO. And the TMO decided Anthony Watson got there first when it was clearly evident he didn't. And obviously we didn't get the try, and we ended up losing the game by 6 points. And obviously that try and the conversion could have won the game. Obviously, on the other hand, you could say the game would have went a different way. With obviously, if we did score, England maybe would have bounced back and played better and scored. You never know what was going to happen at the end of the game. But
it's just that element of being frustrated, thinking, what if, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like you said, the game could have gone a completely different way. England could have reacted strongly and steamrolled you from then on, or you could have gone on and steamrolled us. You never know. But
it's just frustrating. It's just really frustrating because the TMO's there to get those decisions right, and when they get them wrong, you don't get why they are there.
Similar to VAR in football, it's all well and good saying you have this new innovative technology that can help you make decisions, but if they're making wrong decisions, then they're being they're damaging the game. The whole point is they're meant to come in to fix poor mistakes and make the game flow better and fair results happen. But if it does the opposite, then what are you doing?
World Rugby also came out and said the decision was wrong. They actually told Wales the decision was wrong, and obviously they apologised.
Would you expect retrospective action against the TMO then?
I feel
because if he's the only one who thinks he was right and everyone else goes, "Oh no, you're wrong," would he be suspended or stopped from
Well, I feel it should be similar to players. Players do something wrong, they end up getting dropped. For example, if they're not playing very well, and obviously the TMO, I feel the same should be for referees. I feel obviously he shouldn't just be sacked or whatever, but I think he should be able to be dropped down a level, obviously not in Six Nations duty or maybe even professional rugby, maybe a league lower, just to get himself back into the game. Because I feel you can't get a decision like that wrong at that level.
It's difficult because it does feel excessively harsh, but you're right, if it does make that much of a difference to a key game like that, because Wales and England as well as Ireland are two of the sides that will be vying for the actual championship title, so that could have been a big blow to Wales winning it.
You just don't expect mistakes at that level.
Yeah.
Especially when if the referee said maybe said the English person got it first, but then you check the TMO and TMO got it right, then fair enough. Because obviously the referee only gets one look at it. The TMO had multiple angles. You could have looked at that for half hour if you wanted to. he decided to make a quick decision after looking at it 2 or 3 times and said the English person got there first, which I thought was disgraceful. But obviously we move on. England won the game, thoroughly deserved in the end. I thought over 80 minutes. We came back strong at the end. We were the fitter side, but you were the better team. So your kicking game, I think, won you the game. It was way better than ours. You actually kicked for your players to chase and actually make it achievable to win the ball. Ours was just aimless. So I thought England deserved the win overall. Just a shame that something like the TMO took that away from maybe the win overall.
It makes it more interesting now going forward, though, because it gives England the advantage. Obviously, we've still got Ireland to play, but it means we have a positive advantage over you in terms of winning it, and Wales have now a tough job, because if you slip up, then it's pretty much gone. Yeah,
we pretty much need to obviously win the rest of our games now. We've got to beat Ireland, which will be difficult. But our hope, obviously, is that Ireland will beat you in a few weeks' time, and then obviously we defeat Ireland, and it'll come down to maybe whoever got the most bonus points or points difference, maybe even between us, England and Ireland.
Do you want to go straight into that now then? Sort of, previewing the game against Ireland.
Yeah.
How would there be many changes you make from the England game, or?
Well, there's a lot of talking point, obviously, because we've got a lot of players coming back from injury, especially in the back three. So obviously we've started against you with Josh Adams, Steph Evans, and Gareth Anscombe. But obviously Halfpenny's back from injury because he missed the England game. George North is back. Obviously he was on the bench in the game, but he's back fit now. He scored for Northampton this weekend. Josh Adams went back to Worcester and scored a try this weekend. Steph Evans is obviously playing well for Wales. Liam Williams was back from injury for Saracens and scored a try in the weekend. So all the back three players are in form. Obviously they all want our place against Ireland next week. So it's difficult to choose from. I think Liam Williams got to come back in. When you've got someone as good and world class as Liam Williams.
You're a massive fan of him anyway, aren't you?
Yeah, he's my favourite player to watch in world rugby, and I think he needs to come in. I would want him to play 15, but I don't see it happening. I think Halfpenny will keep the 15 jersey. From obviously he played well against Scotland. And then on the other wing, it's going to be tough. I think they'll either go with either George North or they will go with Steph Evans. I hope it's Steph Evans. I feel Evans deserves to keep his place. It's harsh on Josh Adams if he does get dropped, but I feel that's the way I'd go. And George North could be on the bench then, offering obviously cover when he comes on. I think that's. I don't see many other changes around the park. Obviously Faltau's back, but he's not fully fit. He didn't play on the again for Bath, so I'd keep the back row as it is. I think Patch, another talking point was a 10. Obviously Anscombe played well at 10 when he moved later on in the game against you. It was changed the game. That's when we started coming on strong against yourselves. So that's obviously a big talking point in Welsh rugby, and I think I would keep Patch. Obviously I'm maybe biased as a Scarlets fan, but I think Rhys Patch deserves to keep his place at 10. He weren't awful against you. He won his best game, but I feel he deserves to keep his place at 10 anyway against Ireland, and obviously have Gareth Anscombe on the bench who can offer cover there, and obviously in other places as well.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Obviously,
do you feel confident going into the game?
I do, because I feel we did play well against you. What cost us was we give away 2 early tries. Obviously, you didn't score a try after the first 10 minutes, so I feel we'll take a lot of confidence in that. We'll take a lot of confidence that we pushed you all away. Obviously, England, second best team in the world at the moment. We played quite well. Obviously, we've got loads of injuries. I've got a few coming back. I think I'm quite confident heading into the Ireland game that we can pull off a result. Because Ireland haven't pulled up any trees really. When in the first game against France, they got lucky to win out with the Johnny Sexton drop goal at the end.
They did do an awful lot better.
But obviously, they did destroy Italy at home again, but I think that was expected. Obviously, Jacob Stockdale scored a couple of tries. Robbie Henshaw scored a couple of tries. Good news for us is, obviously, bad news for Ireland and for Robbie Henshaw himself, but he's out injured. He got injured scoring a second try. So that's good news for us. Obviously, Wales were hoping Tad Furlong be out injured as well because he went off after 3 minutes, but it looks like he might be fit enough to play. So it's going to be difficult, but I feel I'm confident heading into the game. Obviously, England have got Scotland in a big derby. Obviously, probably the second biggest behind Wales. Are you looking going into that? Do you think England will line up? Many changes?
Very similar. I think, apart from injuries, there's no reason really to change tactically. It's been working so far. I'm feeling really confident. Obviously, after getting Wales are a tough opponent, and I know it wasn't a big scoreline. But a win's a win. So moving forward into the Scotland game, we'd expect to do the same again. Obviously, we're going to have a new number 8 come in, whether that's Zach Mercer getting his nod at start, or whether that's the returning Nathan Hughes. That's something we can that the Eddie Jones will hopefully play around in his mind to decide.
It's difficult because Nathan Hughes is obviously only now coming back from injury. So do you think you'd be able to just push him straight back into something as big as the Six Nations?
I would. I like Nathan Hughes. He played really well for the Wasps. He's played for England for the last couple of years. He's really impressed me when
Do you
he
think
has
he's
played.
fit enough to go in
I
straight
don't see. I don't know. I don't know what his fitness levels are like. I think that's something that Eddie Jones will certainly have to judge this week. But if he deems him, in my opinion, if you're fit enough to be on the bench,
You're fit enough to play.
you're fit enough to play.
I agree
So
with that.
I think if he does make the bench, if he is ready to come straight back into the squad, chuck him straight in. Zach Mercer could be great, but I've said to you before, I don't know much about him in terms of his club rugby. It could be really good. I don't know. What I do know is that Nathan Hughes is reliable, so I would throw him straight in. Maybe harsh on Zach Mercer because he obviously started in the squad. But he'll get his time.
A big
He'll get his
talking
chance.
point we did have in previous weeks, obviously we were discussing who does or should play fullback for England. You said you would stick with Mike Brown, and obviously, like Eddie Jones did, obviously he paid off last week. He had man of the match against us. Do you feel he deserves to keep his place now for future, for the rest of Six Nations and head into the future?
100%. Eddie Jones was quite critical of the media in the past couple of weeks because they've constantly criticised Mike Brown's position as fullback, saying he's not good enough to play on the at test level, and he keeps turning up and proving people wrong. And I like Anthony Watson on the wing, and I like Mike Brown at fullback. I don't see anything wrong with that system, so I wouldn't want to change it.
Also, you've got Scotland. How do you feel? You're confident heading into the game? Scotland obviously just came out, coming off a win against France. They were behind at half time. Still take a lot of excitement heading into the England game, coming back from behind, being able to pick up the first victory after losing to Wales in the opening weekend. You're confident heading into that game?
Yeah, I am. But like you said, it's a derby game, us and Scotland. So it's similar to Wales in the sense that form doesn't go out the window, but it kind of takes a back seat a little bit because there's passions and emotions ride high. Things can happen in those kind of games that you wouldn't really expect in other games, but I'm feeling confident given the form that England are in, the way England's set up, the way they play, that we haven't got too many injuries. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joe Marler and James Haskell are back.
I think they are, yeah. I think Joe Marler is back in the squad, so he could be making an appearance against Scotland.
So we have a couple of new players, and obviously Nathan Hughes coming back into the squad, which gives us a little boost. I feel really confident. I'm looking forward to it.
The thing I'm wondering with Scotland is obviously they were really poor against us, but they did turn up against France, especially in the second half last week. It helped when they took Finn Russell off, who obviously everyone was singing his praises after the autumn, but he's had a disappointing first couple of games in the Six Nations, and they moved Greg Laidlaw into 10 and brought Ali Price in 9. Obviously it seemed to work. They came back into the game. Greg Laidlaw offered a more of a solid fly-half position for Scotland, and they were able to pull themselves back into the game. So that's an issue I think Gregor Townsend is going to have to deal with this week. Does he stick with Finn Russell at 10, or does he play Greg Laidlaw there and bring back Ali Price back in at 9? But I feel they'll be quite confident heading into the England game. Obviously, I'll be supporting Scotland for that game.
I thought you might.
But it'd be interesting to see how that game goes, because Scotland-England obviously is always a good game to watch. England normally get the better of it, so it'd be nice to maybe have a different result this year. We'll see how that one goes.
Well, I think we're heading all the way to the top, so
the other game, obviously,
another
next week,
W would be nice.
The last game is France against Italy. There's a big talking point, obviously, about the French team heading into this game. Obviously, if anyone didn't know, after the game against Scotland in Edinburgh, about 9 of the players went out on a night out in Edinburgh, and they got themselves in trouble. And
not the first of those stories we have this week.
no, we'll touch it on in a different sport later on. But obviously, players went out in Edinburgh as they do normally after a game, and obviously they drank a bit too much and got themselves in trouble. And obviously, Jacques Brunel, the new French coach, decided to make a stance and drop all 9 of them from the squad. He said
that's a very drastic move, isn't it?
Yeah, he said apparently his reasoning was none of them respected what's expected of them as international players. And it's a big call. The biggest call of them all would probably be Teddy Thomas, the winger who's obviously the Six Nations top try scorer at the moment. 3 tries in 2 games. He's looked on fine form. Could be a match winner for them against Italy, or maybe in future games against us and yourselves. So I think that's going to be a big shame for French rugby and French fans.
Especially the fans, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a few other players as well that obviously have started in recent weeks. You've got like Remy Lamaral, Louis Picmo's just come back into the squad after he didn't make the original cut, and obviously he's got himself thrown off here again, which is obviously poor by his standards. The youngster Anthony Bellew, obviously he'll have probably plenty of chance in future to get himself back into the squad, but it's a shame someone so young obviously has cost himself his own place in the squad. They have brought a couple of players back that I wanted to mention though. Mathieu Bastareaud, I think pretty much every rugby fan knows who he is. Making his way back from suspension after what he said about his sexist comment. It was a homophobic comment he made in the rugby game a few weeks back.
Okay.
So he's back from his suspension for that, but I think French fans would be kind of happy with if he can bring his form the out of Toulon.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Galfico, who's been in the squad in the past, brings much experience. Obviously the French team's normally quite a young one this year, so I think them to add in experience back into the midfield could help France against Italy, and then obviously in future games. Be interesting to see if he brings any of those back. Do you think he will, or do you think he'll keep them drop the rest of the Six Nations?
I mean, I don't know. I suppose it depends on how they act now going forward. Whether they show remorse or whether they're apologetic. I'm not quite sure the entire ins and outs of the situation and how the manager feels. But it does seem like a very drastic move to make in one go, in one swift move, just to go, right, you're all out. Maybe that's the way he'll approach it. But then also maybe the players that come in might do a job. And maybe even if they're not as good as the players they've replaced, maybe there'll be the argument of, well, at least they're trying their hardest, they're not being unprofessional. They're sticking to what they should do, and when they're representing the France jersey. So
do you feel
it's difficult?
Obviously, Jacques Brunel's obviously only just come in before the Six Nations. Do you feel he's doing it to make a statement as head coach, or
maybe,
do you feel
yeah.
if he was there for a couple of years, do you think he would have dropped that many?
Maybe he'd be more measured if he'd been there for a long time. But coming in, it's good to put your stamp on it and go, look, I'm in charge. You're not messing me around. The issue with that is obviously you're putting yourself in the crosshairs for the French Rugby Federation and the fans, because they want to see wins. They want to see good performances. They want to try their hardest to do as best as they can. And when they have half of the squad that you would think would start, are being dropped because of some off-the-field antics, they're going to think, well, you've just limited our ability to perform. And that's something that, yes, it's probably necessary. But as fans, I mean, at the end of the day, you want to see a win. That's the bread and butter. That's all you want. And if that limits the chance of getting that, then I don't know. It's difficult to see how they're going to react and how he's going to get a positive response from the French fans.
There's two things I see from this. As you said, fans obviously just want to win, and obviously with them players missing, it does obviously lessen the chance, especially when you've got a player in form as Terry Tamares. Against Italy now, obviously this weekend, it could be the decider for the wooden spoon for the team who finishes bottom. And obviously when you drop that, all your players for that, then it's going to be, if they do end up losing, it's going to bring a lot of heat on Jacques Brunel as to why he dropped them all. Obviously, it's understandable why he did, because obviously you expect your players to respect them as their status. But I feel if they do end up losing to Italy, he'll have a lot of questions asked of him from the media and French fans and the French media themselves.
Definitely, especially as you said, he's just come in. It's never a good thing to come into a job and instantly make big calls, fail with those results, and then end up in a disastrous position. At the end of the day, if he's going to be the French coach for a long time, you need to have a system set up planning forward. If you are coming in, you're culling a load of your team, and then you're losing, and you end up getting the wooden spoon, where does that leave you going forward? It leaves certain players having more game time than probably they would have, and that's great for them. But the general French setup and the fans aren't going to be happy with that. So it's interesting. I would be very surprised if they're out for the rest of the tournament, because it's such a drastic move and such a big call for the manager to make, coach to make. So
I also feel he made the decision because it's maybe Italy. I think if it was maybe one of the other big games, would he have made that call? Say if it was the Welsh game. At the
same time, though, don't you think Italy is one of the easier games to get a win against? If it was against England or Ireland or Wales, you might think, well, we're probably not going to win that game anyway. They're one of the best sides. We'll leave some of our key players out, punish them, bring them back for a game we can win. If they're leaving them out for the Italy game, that's a game they can win. They can prevent.
Obviously, you must think they have enough depth and the quality of players to still get a victory on the weekend against Italy, which I think they do. I think it'd be difficult for Italy to maybe pick up any points to Six Nations, to be honest. Maybe they can get a losing bonus point. But obviously they struggle the opening 2 weekends, and I don't see it getting much easier for them, obviously, for the Six Nations. So I think France will end up still getting the victory, despite obviously missing a host of players. And it'd be interesting to see how if they do come back in for the games after that, especially against obviously Wales. Obviously it'd be interesting to see if Terry Tamar and the rest of them do come back against us.
Yeah, sounds good.
I think we're on to football now then, is it?
One thing we should have said at the beginning, which we'll say now just quickly, for future reference, we do put the sort of timestamps in the description. So if rugby isn't your thing, or football isn't your thing, or whatever, if you're only looking for one specific sport or one specific topic, click down below and you can skip ahead. We'll give you the timestamps so you can skip straight to whatever you want to listen to. We'll lead with that next time.
Yeah.
That today, but anyway, on to the football.
But before we start on the football as well, I was going to say, if you have any comments of what we said, if you agree or disagree with what we've said about England and Wales heading into the rest of the Nations, or the French farce that has happened.
Yeah,
Obviously,
let us know what you think about it.
yeah, just leave a note in the comments down below or on Twitter at UTF_podcast, and just let us know your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to crack on to the...
Yeah, roll straight into football. So, speaking of scandals,
Yeah.
we've got another one. West Brom have had a tough week. Obviously, they're 20th in the Premier League. They're 6 points from the relegation, 7 points from getting out the relegation zone.
Yeah.
So they're in a tough situation. What do they go and do? They have warm weather training in Spain and Barcelona, and consummate professionals: Gareth Barry, Johnny Evans, Jake Livermore, and Boaz Myhill steal a taxi. So I'm not quite sure which story we're meant to be going with as fact. There's an awful lot of different accounts of the story, but from what I gather, this is what I've heard. The 4 players were in a taxi. They'd gone to McDonald's. They weren't allowed in McDonald's because they were too drunk. Obviously, they'd been on a night out after a training session. So they asked the taxi driver to go into McDonald's. When he did, supposedly Gareth Barry, got out the car, got in the driver's seat, drove back to the hotel. They stole the taxi. They left it outside their 5-star hotel and whatever. There have been no arrests, but the police are investigating. And West Brom aren't happy, as you can understand.
No.
Alan Pardew isn't happy that the players, first of all, broke their curfew. They were out much later than they should have been. And then second of all, for the activities they got up to. Obviously...
Didn't help. He also lost his jacket with his phone and wallet.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So I don't think that helped.
Week.
So I don't think that helped Alan Pardew.
So the 4 players issued an apology via the West Brom website. Alan Pardew criticised them heavily, but didn't drop. Well,
he did strip Johnny Evans of the captaincy.
I didn't notice that.
He gave it to Gareth McCauley.
But Johnny Evans and Gareth Barry still started.
Yeah, they did. And Jake Livermore is out injured, and Boaz Myhill's on the bench.
Boaz Myhill, yeah.
So the thing I find most interesting about this is it's the players you don't expect to have done it.
Yeah.
You never expect Gareth Barry, obviously at his age
Gareth
as well.
Barry, 37, 38,
he's never
however old
had
he is.
any issues.
The model professional.
Yeah. Same with Johnny Evans, and obviously...
Well, I suppose it's even worse with Johnny Evans wearing the captain's armband.
Yeah,
you're someone who leads by example.
That's why obviously he took the decision to strip him from it. It's just the players in it I find strange. You just don't expect it from
it's
those.
Bizarre. But I don't really know too much about Boaz Myhill, but he's been around the block a while, so again, you'd think he's quite professional experience. But no, I know that.
Yeah.
And then Jake Livermore again, been around the block a long time, should know better.
They're all
British.
Boaz Myhill and Gareth Barry are all 30. Obviously, they're 30 plus. You've got Johnny Evans who's nearly 30 himself. Jake Livermore. None of them are like youngsters making young mistakes.
Well, that's it. You can excuse it, but there's more of a case to excuse it if you are
a youngster. Yeah.
Yeah, someone who's 20, 21.
When you're someone like that making those type of decisions.
If it was going back in the day, a Saido Berahino would say he was still there. You could think, oh, okay, all right, that makes more sense. It's not excusable, but it makes more sense. This makes no sense. It doesn't make sense. But maybe that's a testament to what alcohol does to you.
Yeah, it's just an interesting story, really. Before we want to talk about it. So
it's interesting. I don't know how. Imagine if they ended up getting persecuted for it.
Well, they did get investigated, but they had to go down to the station or wherever it is out there. But nothing came of it. Obviously, they left the taxi outside the hotel, so there's no actual.
Well, one thing I have. Do you think it was the same? Do you think it's because they're footballers they get let off?
That's a good question.
You think, let's say, you and me are in Spain and Marcus, and we've done the exact same thing. We've stolen a taxi, driven it back to a hotel, left it outside, whatever. I don't see us getting over that.
That's a fair point. I agree with you. I don't think that it's because of this. Obviously, people know who they are. For one, the club themselves will obviously be able to help them as well. Obviously, knowing it's their players, they want to keep it as secret as possible and help them out. It's difficult, really, isn't it? Because you don't expect it from professional sports stars. It's really difficult.
The issue is, I think, because it's such a silly little thing, how it's difficult to really punish them. Because
they have the money as well, so they might even, you never know, they might use money to have got out with it.
If it's a fine, it's basically not a punishment, is it? And then it's difficult because, like you said, it's such a. It is technically a crime, but it's such a nothing thing, and it's so stupid that it's just a really weird situation.
It is. It's a really weird story, but Alan Pardew obviously forgiven them for coming forward, and they're all still in the squad. Livermore's injured at the moment, obviously, but he'll be coming back soon.
I think the biggest thing for West Brom is the fact that they're in the relegation zone at the moment. They
can't afford to be
they're
dropping.
in the dire straits. They need as much focus and dedication to try and get them out of the troubling place they are, and that just doesn't seem like they're in the right headspace. You know, they're too preoccupied.
Do you feel similarly, obviously, to what the French was like? Do you feel if it was one of the younger players or the players who don't play week in, week out, say obviously Johnny Evans is the captain, Gareth Barry plays obviously most of the time. Do you feel if it was someone who doesn't play all the time, they would have had the same punishment? Or do you feel he would have left them out to dry?
Probably left them out. I think, like we said, one, they're in a tough position. They can't really afford,
because they need those.
Because
players.
yes, you can say, right, well, I'm going to stick to my morals and I'm going to sack you off, and then play other players. But if they end up getting relegated, it's such a detrimental thing for the club. They cannot go down.
Could cost his job as well. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But not only that. I mean, with all the money you get in the Premier League by itself, you need to stay in the Premier League. You can't afford to go down. So he can't afford to get rid of two of his main players, especially Johnny Evans, who obviously has been linked with Arsenal, Man City in recent times. He's been that good since he signed for West Brom. So it's tough. But like you said, if it was someone, I can't think of any young players at West Brom at the moment, but if it was a younger player, you could probably afford to hang out to dry a little bit more.
Yeah. I'm really
Sam Field, let's say, Sam Field. You never know what can happen there. He could end up being.
It's just a weird story, scandal, whatever you want to call it. It's just a strange situation.
There isn't really much to talk about in football this week, though, is there?
No, there's not. There's going to be more football talk in future weeks. At the moment, there's not much at the moment.
It's been a bit of a slow news week for football.
Yeah, so the only other thing we got to talk about football is the FA Cup draw. Obviously, it was FA Cup weekend. Thank God we didn't have any hiccups against Huddersfield last night.
Thank God, no Everton playing. A nice reprieve.
But obviously we didn't have any hiccup. It was an easy, comfortable victory over Huddersfield last night. Lukaku had a really good game, scored a couple of good goals. It was just comfortable really at the end of the day. Huddersfield did try their best to push forward, but it was just easy. Obviously, good news for us as well. Got Brighton at home in the next round, so we should make the semi-final.
Although it's still a Premier League match-up, so it's, you never know.
I think nearly all the teams left pretty much Premier League except obviously Wednesday and Swansea, which they got to have a replay.
Just a quick read through of those. The match-ups at the moment for the next round are United against Brighton, Leicester City against Chelsea, Wigan or Man City against Southampton, and Sheffield Wednesday or Swansea against Rochdale or Spurs. So it could well be all Premier League sides.
Do you feel it's a coincidence the four big teams kind of avoided each other?
Well, yeah, people seem to think there's a conspiracy going on, don't they?
Yeah, there's a lot of conspiracies going around on social media.
It's always better for the competition, I think, especially with it being the FA Cup. It's got a bit more magic to it.
So
you want to see a big match in the final.
You expect Spurs to beat Rochdale today, you expect Man City to beat Wigan tomorrow, and then obviously suddenly you've got United Brighton. United expected to win that. You've got Leicester Chelsea you expect to win that. You've got City against Southampton, City you expect to win that, and then Spurs are expected to beat Swansea Wednesday. So then you've got the semi-final, obviously the four big clubs.
Rochdale.
Yeah. But you expect the semi-final to be the four big clubs then, similar to how the League Cup went. Do you feel it is maybe a little conspiracy going on, or do you feel it's just the way it is?
It's just the way it is, isn't it? It's just the dice seems to roll the right way for some of these big sides a lot of the time. But it makes it better for the competition because, I mean, I'd much rather watch a semi-final or even a final of Man United against Chelsea than I would against Rochdale against Wednesday. Yeah. It takes a little bit of the shine off, but yeah, it is kind of convenient how this happens a lot. It does happen a lot. That
it would be nice to see maybe a couple of shocks.
What was it? I think it was the Carabao Cup earlier this season. They did like a practice draw. Man United drew Man City or something like that. And then when they did the redraw, it was a significantly easier team. People, though, those kind of things, people think, hang on, why is that? Is that you've just done a draw and gone, actually, we'll change our mind and do a set? But it's all conspiracies. I don't think any of it's true. I just think it's just lucky,
it would be nice to see a couple of shocks, maybe, like if Rochdale did beat Spurs today, or if Wigan beat Man City tomorrow. That'd be interesting to see for me.
I think for the neutral, there's always that hope of some of these lower league sides will do well. They'll pull off an upset, but when it comes to the final, which everyone likes to watch the FA Cup final, then it's a big match.
We would say one team left.
I'd like to see Man United Chelsea. That would be my particular, because I think if Man City gets to the final, they'll win it, and I'd like to see a bit more of a even matchup. I'd like to see Man United Chelsea personally.
Obviously, Wigan are still in the competition. They got City tomorrow, a team they did beat to win the FA Cup a few years ago in 2013. Yeah. They got history.
Roberto Martinez,
obviously
manager.
They're not a Premier League side now. Obviously, they're in League One. Do you feel they can make an upset against Man City tomorrow?
I don't think they can. Man City are just that good. But if any team, not if any team can do it, they can do it. But they have been good this season.
Yeah,
They
beaten them in the
really
past.
have annihilated League One. They've beaten Bournemouth. They battered Bournemouth in 2 legs. They were unlucky not to beat them in the first leg.
I think they've defeated 3 Premier League teams in a row
They
now.
have, yeah. They're doing really well. And you know what? If they were playing someone like a Leicester or a Swansea or Chelsea or something, or even a Chelsea or Man United, you'd have a sliver of hope. Maybe you can do it. Man City, I just can't see it. They're just so good. They're so good. No matter what team they play, no matter what formation or what system they play, they're just amazing. What's
your pick of the semi-final? Say Spurs do win and Swansea win and Man City win. What's your pick of the next round? I think United should beat Brighton. Obviously, as a fan myself, I'd be disappointed if we couldn't obviously pull them off. I think my pick of the tie would be Leicester-Chelsea. I feel Leicester are a side who can cause damage to the bigger teams. They've shown this season with the counter-attack. Jamie Vardy and obviously Riyad Mahrez, who's just come back into the team following his transfer dramas. I think they're the team that could probably cause an upset this season in the FA Cup if there's going to be any upsets this year.
Yeah, no, I think that game would be good to watch. It's a lot more closer than the other games. There's a heavy favourite each game, and I think even though Chelsea will be the favourites, obviously, that's closer than any other game will be, or at least it should be. So I'm looking forward to that as well. I think Chelsea, Spurs, City, and United will get to the semi-final, and my hope is for a London derby and a Manchester derby in the semis.
That'd be
that's what I want, and then I want hopefully Man United, Chelsea the final. That's my aim, and I don't care who wins the final.
I'd take that if we got to the final, and obviously
don't care
if we win it.
Don't care who wins the final.
To win it, and that's right. That's what I'm
really. I just should be thinking really. I don't know. I don't think Everton will get European qualification this year, but there is a way we can get it depending on who wins the FA Cup. But I just don't think it's going to happen. So, not wasting me time thinking about that one.
Do you really want to go into Europe again after what happened this year as well?
Well, I mean, the thing is, you can never say no to Europe because it's European competition.
Getting smashed by teams like Atalanta.
To be fair, Atalanta are a great side. I overestimated them a lot. Everyone wants to be in Europe, and if you're going to attract the top players, you need to be in Europe to get the top players. But it was not. It's the worst ever campaign by an English side in the Europa League. We have have that distinction now.
I think we should leave it at that. To be honest.
Maybe leave it for a year.
Obviously, that's pretty much it with football. There's not much happening at the moment. Hopefully, in future weeks, we'll have more to talk about.
What is happening? There was a fight last night. A boxing fight.
Yeah, British showdown between George St. Groves and obviously Chris Eubank Jr. Did you manage to catch any of the fight?
I didn't watch it, no. I'll be honest, I was watching a film about journalism. But I didn't see it.
The ultimate professional, as you are.
Yeah, well, that's it.
Obviously George Groves managed to get the victory. Probably, well, according to the bookies, he was the underdog. He clearly outboxed and just outthought Chris Eubank, to be honest, for most of the fight, especially for the first 6, 7, 8 rounds. Eubank came back into it at the end, that's because he had to. He had to start swinging for the heels. He was getting a bit flustered. Obviously, he's trying to knock Groves out because he knows he's behind on the scorecards, and he just couldn't do it. He did wobble him towards the end, especially in the last round, like 10 seconds to go, but by then, obviously, it's too late.
Yeah.
But it was a good victory for George Groves. The only issue he had...
Retained his title.
He retained his title, yeah, and obviously picked up Eubank's title, and obviously he's into the final of the competition against either Callum Smith or Jurgen Bremer, which I think will be another good fight.
Callum Smith would be a good fight for him.
The only issue is for Groves is he did dislocate his shoulder, and that could put him out for maybe 12 months. And they're not sure obviously what's going to happen with the competition, if they're going to wait for him to come back to health, or if they're going to maybe let Eubank go into the final or bring someone else in. They haven't really decided yet. They can't decide till they know the extent of George Groves' injury.
It's tough because he deserves to be there. I mean, he's had a rough couple of years. 2 years ago, obviously he lost against Carl Froch twice.
Getting knocked out in front of 8,000 people at Wembley. Has Carl Froch ever mentioned that? Has he ever mentioned that? No.
Who else did he lose? Was it Buddy Jack he lost to?
Yeah.
He lost to someone else, but either way, he was going for a tough spell. And he was thinking about quitting boxing. And 2 years later, he's now retained his title. And he's doing really well for himself. And you don't want him to have to, let that place go. He's earned it. I've never been a big fan of Chris Eubank. I think he's all mouth. I don't think he does what he says he will do in the ring. And from what I gather, I mean, I didn't see the fight, but from what I gather, it was just him being outboxed. He has an awful lot of heart, and he wears, and he really does get into it. He has a lot of passion. He fights like a lion. But if you don't know how to box people, it's difficult. And some people can make it work. Deontay Wilder makes it work. He's not the best boxer, but he's so good at what he does. He can just pummel an opponent. Eubank isn't the same.
I think one of the big issues between both fighters, George Groves obviously changed his coach to Shane McGuigan after obviously all his disappointments, and he's gone from strength to strength in him, and obviously that's worked for him. And going into the future, obviously he's still world champion, and obviously if he comes back well, he can obviously create a lot of damage in the division. Obviously Chris Eubank's coaching himself. Obviously there's got to be a massive hindrance not having a coach to give him.
I mean, his dad's coaching him.
No, his dad didn't coach him.
Yeah.
No, he's just his manager. He doesn't have a coach.
Right,
He coached himself. He said after the fight
that's
yesterday.
That's a bizarre
coached
decision.
Himself, and it's like you said, it's a bizarre decision for him, and I think that's cost him really. It's his biggest fight since the loss to Billy Joe Saunders.
Well, I was just about to touch on that. If you think about it, he's only lost 2 fights. I think it's 28 fights, 26 wins. But the 2 losses he's had against Groves and Billy Joe Saunders, two fighters who can actually box. So it's a testament to you've now been shown the pattern of why you're losing these games, because yes, you can beat other people with just raw aggression and whatnot, but if you don't know how to box, you can't beat the good fighters. So he needs to get better training and learn how to box properly.
It's also the 2 people he lost to, the 2 people of a decent standard. That's
what I mean.
World class. Well,
that's what I'm saying. They can box. Those 2 are good boxers. So you can't come up against someone who's a good boxer and go, right, I've got this because I know I can do it. If you can't actually...
People say he didn't have a plan B or plan C, but I don't think he had a plan A last night, to be honest. He literally said he got outboxed, outfought, and only in the later round he said, come on, but that's only because he had to. And he was swinging for the hills, hoping for the best. And he was getting caught as well by Groves, obviously, because he was not defending himself. But I think he nearly catch Groves at the end. Obviously, there was only 10 seconds left, so it was way too much too late. So I think Eubank needs to go back to the drawing board, get himself a coach, knuckle down, and try and obviously get back into the scene. George Groves, on the other hand, he needs to obviously try and hopefully see the extent of his injury first and try and recover from that. And if he can, obviously in time, he'll be in the final against Callum Smith, who can pretty much be a quality fight. And if he can't, then it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Callum Smith, who can bring him a fight.
So you don't think Eubank should take Prince Nassim's advice?
That was a ridiculous comment by Prince Nassim after the fight, saying that he should retire. He's still young. He's only lost 2 fights. Saying he should retire
because he doesn't want to see him get hurt anymore.
It's like George Groves has lost a few fights. He's still there. He's making a you can go back to you have to regress sometimes to progress. And I think
1 step back, 2 steps forward.
Exactly. I think that's what Chris Eubank needs to do now. He needs to get himself a coach. He can't keep coaching himself. And he needs to knuckle down and try and do what George Groves did and come back into the middleweight scene.
I definitely agree. Prince Nassim did speak some sense in the sense that he agreed with what we're saying, and that you need to learn how to box properly. You need to train. You need to go back to the drawing board. Really look at your game plan, how you approach fights, how you approach training, what you're doing, instead of just going, right, I can do it, going to the ring and then not have a game plan. You need to really be strategic about the way you fight. Obviously the time I think is a bit of a step too far, but he has some good points in that, which we definitely agree. You need to really look at what you're doing before you. I'm glad Groves won anyway. I'm a big fan.
I was actually hoping Eubanks would win because I'm not a massive fan of George Groves. I feel he thinks he's way better than what he is.
To be honest, I'll tell a lie. I said I'm a big fan of Groves. I'm not really a big fan of Groves. I'm quite neutral on Groves. I just don't really like Eubank. I've said this before with the likes of Tyson Fury. I'm not a big fan of people that are all mouth, and I find that Eubank likes to tweet a lot. Likes to tweet people saying I'm going to beat you, and he never backs it up.
Well, like I said, it'd be interesting to see though what happens with this tournament now, because there's a couple of calls being shouted around. Obviously, Callum Smith, Jürgen Bremer. The winner of that, is that going to be the final now? Or if Groves can't obviously get fit enough and they'll fight Groves when he is fit enough? Or will Eubank now go through to the final and face one of them for a title? It's hard to judge till you know the extent of Groves' injury. And when we know that, then we'll be able to see.
The last thing we've got.
Yeah.
A little bit of Winter Olympics. Have you seen much of the Winter Olympics?
Yeah, I have actually. That's what we're going to talk about.
I haven't watched much at all.
I haven't watched student. I haven't seen any of the skiing or anything like that, but when I was home over the week, I was able to watch some of the skeleton, which is obviously Britain's probably best.
Well, yeah,
probably our best one. And also, I was able to watch a bit of the speed skating.
All I've watched is snowboarding. I like Sean White. Great talent.
Did you win? He
did, yeah. Yeah, he's a decent skateboarder, but as a snowboarder, unbelievable. He's great.
But what we want to speak about was Lizzie Arnold's become the first ever British athlete in the Winter Olympics to defend her Olympic title. She got gold again. She was second going into the last round. I was watching it, and she managed to pull off a magnificent run. Another name who people might not know as much, if you know anything about the Winter Olympics, is Laura Diaz. She's a first ever...
You think it's pronounced, yeah?
Diaz or Diaz. Yeah, I think it's Diaz. She's the first ever...
Well, so you never know, do you?
She's the first ever Welsh athlete to pick up a medal at the Winter Olympics.
Massive, that.
That is massive. She's from Wrexham in North Wales.
Although you say that, Amy Williams, not that long ago, was the first British one ever to pick it up. So we're just not very good at the Winter Olympics.
Yeah, well, it's difficult because we don't get the weather.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe it's a sign that we're turning things around, that we can actually start picking up medals.
They spend the majority of the time in like Austria and places like that to train. But Laura Diaz was fourth heading into the final run, and she managed to, well, I say she managed to do it, but it was actually because the person in first place heading into the final run completely bottled it and ended up finishing outside the medal places altogether.
Sometimes you need that stroke of luck, and I mean, if she still put the work in to get into fourth place, she still deserves it anyway. You know, she was handed a bit of a benefit when there was a mistake by the second place competitor. But if she hadn't done the work she had to get into fourth place, then
but it was nice to see. Obviously, we had two British people on the podium for that.
Oh, that's
skeleton.
Great.
Obviously, Liz Yarn's defended the title. Laura Diaz, new up and coming. It's her first ever Winter Olympics, first Welsh girl to ever win it. And it was just a great story, really, for British Winter Olympics. Obviously, we don't win many medals, so it's just nice to see.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah. Obviously, the summer's so good, and everyone loves the Summer Olympics. But I feel that people don't really appreciate the Winter Olympics as much as the Summer Olympics, and they're both just as important. They're both massive tournaments, massive competitions. So if we can get more British people winning things and being successful, then we'll also get more public interest in the Winter Olympics, and that's great.
I think it's overlooked over here, obviously, because we don't have
that's what I'm saying. Because we're not very good. We don't really win many things. We don't really have that kind of climate. We don't really watch it. What's the point? It's going to be all the Canadians, the Swiss, the Russians. But if we can start winning more medals, then we're going to attract more public attention, which in turn will inspire more people in the future to try and compete in the Winter Olympics. And then it will hopefully become, maybe not quite as big as the Summer Olympics, but it will be a much bigger competition over here than it is now.
So when I was watching it, I was watching the skeleton, obviously, with my mother back home, and we were speaking about how do they get into it? Like, obviously over here, you don't know where do you go to try and train to be a skeleton?
When you're 10 years old, what do you do?
Obviously, you can easily go to a football team down the road, rugby team down the road, even local cricket clubs.
Tennis, anything, yeah.
Exactly, they're all local, you can easily accessible. And then where do you go to try skeleton or try speed skating?
I always wonder where you go. Where'd you go for? I can't remember what the sport's called now. The one where you go, what Eddie the Eagle did when you go down the ski jump. When you go down that really big thing and then jump. Where'd you do that?
Yeah, that's the thing, because we don't have it over here. Like, if you want to go skiing and stuff, you have to go to proper skiing. You have to go to Austria and places like that. So it's just interesting, really, how they managed to get into it. And it'd be interesting. Maybe I'll have a look in the future, see how they do it.
Either way, it's good to see we're actually getting some success.
Yeah. Disappointment actually in the Olympics for Britain as well, after obviously those Liz Arnold and Laura Diaz's success, was Elise Christie. She's one of the favourites as speed skating. She world champion multiple times. She seems to be able to do it everywhere except at the Winter Olympics. 4 years ago she got disqualified and never won any medals. Now this time she's been in 500 metres last week and she ended up falling, so she ended up obviously didn't win.
Was it last corner one of them?
Yeah, that was literally this one yesterday. It was a 1500, and she was obviously made her way into only the top three qualified, and she made her way into second place, but she got overtaken by a couple of other athletes, so she had to obviously overtake one of the people who overtook her, and she fell around the last corner, taking out the other athlete with her and injuring herself. She got carried off to hospital in tears.
Did see that, yeah.
In tears, and obviously it's another shame for her because she's still not got that medal, and now she's touch and go for a third and final chance in the 1,000 metres.
How old is she? Would she get another Olympics?
I think she will get another Olympics. She's still young enough, I think.
The issue you have is if you've got such a history there of failing, there's now a big mental block of trying to overcome that. Everyone already has. If you're going to be an Olympic athlete, there's already so many hurdles you have to cross, and you have to be so perfect at your job. If you also have this mental block of potentially 6 times I failed at the Olympics, that's tough.
I think that's where it is with her. I think if her mental block is there now, she knows she's never won a medal at the Winter Olympics. So when she does go on the track, she's trying her hardest. Maybe she's over trying, and then that's where her mistakes come in, and that's where she's falling.
You overcompensate because you're that desperate, and then.
I did feel sorry for her in the 500 metre because I don't think it was her fault why she fell. I think it was the other athlete, but it didn't get called that way. And obviously yesterday it was her fault. It was clearly she tried obviously overtaking. She was desperate, as you say, and it ended up obviously backfiring, taking her and the Chinese woman out. The Chinese woman qualified for the final then. She's got one more chance. She's touch and go to make it. Do you feel she should risk it, or do you think she's going to be mentally strong enough now to do it, not just physically?
I think if you're physically strong enough, you have to do it. I mean, it's the Olympic Games. The Olympic Games are it's such a pristine thing to get there. You have to be so perfect to get there. I think if you qualify and you are fit enough to do it, you have to do it. Even if she fails, there's nothing she gains from stepping back and going, "Well, I'm not in the right headspace." Doesn't matter. Give it a go. It's the Olympic Games. You have to try.
Be interesting to see. I hope she does give it a go at least, because if she does, you never know. She could maybe pull it off and finally get that medal, even if it's a bronze.
Strange things
or
have
silver.
happened.
It doesn't have to be gold. I think she'll take a bronze at the moment. I think she just wants that Olympic medal in her locker.
Yeah, people I think underestimate how good that is. A bronze medal is amazing.
I mean, you're
it's not
third
gold,
in the world in your sport.
Yeah, it's incredible. A medal is a medal. If you get a medal at the Olympic Games, it's something you can always say you've got. So
obviously she's looking for gold, but if she can get bronze, I think that'll be a massive achievement for her, and she'll take a lot of confidence heading into the future with that.
Definitely.
That's pretty much all I got to say this week.
Yeah. It's been quite a slow week, hasn't it, in terms of actual news stories.
It's been a decent podcast. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoy it as always.
So
hopefully you lot will enjoy it too.
Yeah.
We're back same time next week, aren't we?
Yeah, we're back same time next week.
Same time next week. More rugby, hopefully a bit more football. There's some more news.
Wherever happens in the week. But that's all for this week's Under the Floodlights podcast. I say thanks to my co-host Elliot Cuff for being here.
Cheers.
And for the previous episodes. If you haven't seen our previous episodes, go on our YouTube and have a look. Hopefully you'll enjoy this one and watch it. All our links are in the description. Make sure you leave your comments down below. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.